So I'm Colleen, representing the white woman within the painting. It's a very awkward situation because, she used to have a role of such power and really dominion over them, and she's realizing, that things are going to change.
Hey y'all, I'm Kathi. For me, I'm trying to represent that kind of hesitancy of exploring their freedom, but there is lots of barriers to each situation, so we played with the idea of barriers and either getting over them or going under them for whatever that might mean.
So within phase 2, Danielle suggested that I show both, the beautiful and ugly aspects of a slave owner as, someone who is in a position of great power, who is oppressing others, can be very proud of what they're doing and feel like they are in the right, but they also are doing something that's really horrible and very, as I said, oppressive to those people. So you can see how I lift my diaphragm and my chest, but I also kind of sink down into what I'm doing. And I turn around, and when I PK turn towards Connie, I'm not doing it, in a very pretty way. I'm showing how I can move through the space just to grab her and to hold her back from what she's doing.
At one point, though, we inserted, this little hip-hop phrase. And the idea behind that was that this was an art that Africans and Americans were making for themselves. And even though it wasn't coming about at this time, some of the trends that we start to see during that time period within the African American community eventually leads up to what is the formation of hip-hop.
Phase 1, Wartime Reconstruction. Ending with the bloody Civil War and beginning with the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, all slave persons are free. Slaves must decide what to do with this new freedom. Do they go north and follow the Union soldiers? Do they find their families spread across the South and West through the domestic slave trade? Or do they stay with familiarity, stay on the plantation where they lived their whole life? Continuing the quest to Reconstruction, Abraham Lincoln constructed his 10% plan, which strived to reunify and reconstruct the South with the North as long as the South recognized the abolition of slavery, the 13th Amendment. In 1865, one of the most important pieces of legislation for the Black American was passed. The 13th Amendment abolished the legal practice of slavery, with the exception of those convicted of a crime, of course. Phase 2, Presidential Reconstruction. Andrew Jackson, the U.S.'s next president after Lincoln's assassination in 1865, vetoed Special Orders Number 15. This is the order where the saying 40 acres and a mule came from. This order would have reserved 40 acres of land in South Carolina for Black families to begin a fresh start to their newfound freedom. This freed up more land for the reconstruction of the South. In places like Mississippi, legislation was passed in order to prevent blacks from gaining too much land and power. State governments passed legislation such as the Mississippi Black Codes in 1865 that allowed Black people to sue and be sued, but they could not own any land in certain cities, thus keeping blacks closely watched by police at that time. Phase 3, Radical Reconstruction. On the one hand, legislation was being passed. We'd see the passage of the 14th and 15th Amendment, which gives blacks legal citizenship and the right to vote. Jim Crow laws and white supremacist mentalities allow for lynchings to be socially and politically practiced. In HELLHOUNDS, Leon F. Litwack explains that what caused for all this racial, political, and social tension was the signs of black success, independence, and education. He states that the closer the black man got to the ballot box, the more he looked like a rapist. This tension, described in Litwack's text and all throughout the Reconstruction era, is visualized perfectly in Winslow Homer's 1876 A Visit from the Old Mistress.